What's up, you guys? We got to have a beautifully honest conversation about Monique Samuels, her return to RHOP. But, somehow, even with all this time that has passed, and when she's pressed with the question about Candace, all the grace that the audience has given her, and I've seen a lot of comments like, oh my God, I always loved her, and I love her even more now. Healing looks amazing on her. It's like she still refuses to acknowledge her part and take accountability when it comes to Candace and this altercation that happened years ago. Let's get into it, guys. Thanks for stopping by the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, being subbed. If you're not, hit the button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit the like. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into the real of reality TV.
Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly. Look in my eyes, don't let it fall on me. Say you're a good guy, make me believe it. Don't wanna hear it, I wanna see it how. Rewind, when we rewind, feel so.
All right, guys. So let's get into Monique. She was on Watch What Happens Live. So she's back on the promo circuit. It looks like she's definitely in Andy's good graces. And to be honest with you guys, I'm just going to be real about this because we know Andy is a messy queen. It has been said that Andy really did not like Candace. He didn't like Candace. So to me, him allowing Monique to come back is kind of like a slap in the face to Candace because I don't feel that he really liked her. But as many people, there are people who don't like Candace. There actually is a lot of people who really do like Candace. Okay. So when it comes to people being on the Real Housewives, he can't deny that if someone is really, really, truly a fan favorite and they didn't really do anything wrong, there really is no reason to say they don't have a place back on the show. We know what he said about Jen Shaw. He doesn't like Jen Shaw. And I didn't talk about this, but she was on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. She's going to be released, I believe, in a couple of days from prison. She's getting early release for so-called good behavior, which is ironic because her behavior on the Salt Lake City Housewives franchise has been deplorable. But she was a crook involved in some things where it took some people to the point where they took their lives because of how much they were scammed out of money. Okay. So she ain't coming back, all right? I'm here for that. I don't want to see her back either, even though there's some people that are like, oh, she should come back. It'll be amazing for the show. Some things don't need to be back on the Housewives, okay? And some people. But with that being said, Monique still cannot accept full responsibility and accountability for what she did to Candace. So when she's asked about her relationship, friendship, whatever so-called friendship, a possible reconciliation, even now, years later, when fans press her, interviewers question her, and they try to extend grace to her, she doubles down on the same narrative. And even though she may not say the exact same words that she said back then, because she's on this so-called healing journey and she's a different person today than she was back then. And I can get that too. Hopefully people do grow and evolve. I said this to somebody a while ago that knew me from when I was a child, and they were like, you've changed. And I said, well, nigga, I hope I have changed. I am at that time. I'm like, I'm in my 30s. I'm not 13. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm just saying, yeah, hopefully people do evolve and change over time, but it doesn't mean that you can't take accountability for the things that you did in your past, or you just erase it as if it never happened. But I wanted to get into this clip And I'm just doing this under the fair use provision that allows limited use of copyrighted material without permission for purposes like criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. And any content I'm sharing is under that act, and I'm not claiming it as my own. So I'm just doing this for the purposes of criticism and commentary. Let's get into this clip, guys.
Like, we've seen that you've done so much work on yourself. How do you feel about your relationship with Candiace, and do you see there ever being a reconciliation?
There was no relationship. And sometimes moving on doesn't mean that you have to reconcile. Sometimes you just see people for who they are.
Did you get that? I mean, did you catch that? Did you get that? Listen, I will agree with her when she says there was no relationship, because I don't believe they were actual real friends. All of these people, for the most part, except Giselle, Karen, Charisse when she was, a main cast member on the show, and Robin when she was a main cast member on the show, they didn't know these people. So yeah, you didn't really have a relationship. They're getting to know each other and building so-called friendships and relationships. I will agree with her with that. But for her to sit there and say you see people for who they really are, here she is still throwing that subtle shade in her healed self, right? Let's continue.
And you know your place and you set your boundaries, and it's okay not to rekindle something that isn't meant to be rekindled.
The words that she's saying, ironically, I feel like are the words that Candiace would and should say about her if she were asked that question. But for her to sit there and say, sometimes you see people for who they really are, bitch, Candiace didn't do anything to you. You're sitting here reconciling with Giselle for a check. Let's be clear. Everything that this woman is doing right now is for money. And I get it. Times are hard. A lot of us out here, we need some money. I get that. But when you're doing stuff for just the sake of the check, you really relinquish your integrity just to get the check, then I don't have any respect for you. I don't. And so everyone, she's out here throwing Chris under the bus. Now Candiace, I was not in her relationship with Chris, and I said that before. It's very well possible that he was insensitive in a lot of moments and didn't make her feel loved or wanted at times and whatever. But I'm just going to say this, and if you get triggered by it, then I'm sorry. I'm not trying to do that, but this is just real life. Life is not a fairy tale, and marriage is not a movie. People are people. We go through shit in life. We have our ups and we have our downs. So all of the stuff about somebody not making you feel love and not making you feel wanted, sometimes people go through stuff too. And for the mere fact of the matter that Chris was the breadwinner who was a football player, which is not an easy career to have and to be a very successful one, because let's be clear, a lot of people who have been in the NFL and been on teams, they don't get to the place that Chris Samuels was. It's a very hard job. These people are ramming up against each other, people tackling them, busting them against the head, and all of the other things that are going on. There is a disease that they can contract that people don't know they have until they're dead, CTE. To do an actual brain scan and research the brain to see if they actually have it, they don't know they have it until they're dead. I cannot sit here, and I'm not saying that gives a football player who may be in a relationship with anyone the right to beat up on anyone, but I truly do not believe that Chris was doing that to her. I don't. And I'm sick of these people who get on these shows, everything's all gravy, baby, when they're in the relationship with the people, and then when they're not in a relationship with them anymore, they want to paint that person out to be the villain. And I'm going to do a separate video on that, but I'm just saying that to say she's throwing Chris and Candiace under the bus right now. And I don't believe everything that she's saying. I just don't. I believe there are definitely times where Chris may have been extremely insensitive and not making her feel the way that she wanted to be feeling at that moment in time or whatever. But I don't think that equates to him being an abusive husband. I just don't. And I would love to hear his side of the story too, because the fact is he was out here in the public too. It shouldn't just be her telling her side of the story and everyone just gets to hear what she has to say and Chris doesn't. Now, if he doesn't want to, that's his right.
All right.
Like we've seen that you've done so much work on yourself. How do you feel about your relationship with Candiace, and do you see there ever being a reconciliation?
So that's just a clip up close and personal. But somebody says, so she can reconcile with Giselle and Ashley, but not the person she attacked. Okay, spiritual journey. Let me go ahead and drop a heart on that one. Okay, now Monique has officially lost me. Her answer here doesn't make sense to me. She can forgive everyone else but Candiace, who she attacked. Got it. Another heart. And there's the real Monique. Reconciling with Giselle was necessary. Yeah. She always wanted G to like her. Hold up. She said that she was in a dark place in her marriage, which is what caused her to react that way. She also admitted she was wrong. So how can you reconcile with everyone else except the person that started your healing journey? I'm not buying the new Monique. It's giving play along to get along. And that's exactly what it is, guys. Someone said, I surely remember her and Candiace talking in Monique's bedroom and them being close at one point. There was definitely a relationship. I don't know. I'm saying, a lot of times that stuff, it's like happening in the moment and it's a scene and it's on the show, but it doesn't really mean that they were real friends. So it doesn't really mean there was a real relationship. But I also am pissed that she's trying to make Candiace out to be the villain, to say, when you see people for who they really are. Girl, the exact same words that came out of her mouth, we could replace Candiace in that seat and have those words come out of Candiace's mouth about Monique. Period. Girl, go apologize to Candiace. They really be eating Jizzy up, LOL, because Jizzy has said worse about you, but you two are cool now. Yeah, somebody says still the same old Monique, because that's who she is. All of this healing journey bullcrap is just ridiculous. Somebody said, now Monique, girl, don't gaslight us. We watched the show and you most definitely had a relationship with Candiace. Well, like I said, it may not have been real, like a real relationship, real friendship, but it doesn't mean that Candiace deserves what was said about her. Phony Moni strikes again. All Phony Moni ever wanted to be liked by Giselle. And it's like, girl gone, jiffy. But yeah, I'm just not here for this bullcrap. She is ridiculous. And to have her sit there and say that with a straight face, it's just the same cycle. Victim mentality, deflection, zero accountability. And like I said to you guys before, when she was doing her first scene on the show, when Ashley comes over, and Ashley is not a real friend to her either. Because if they're real friends like that, why is Ashley acting like that's the first time she was over to her house? They're not real friends. And I feel that it was a requirement of her to say what she said about that situation. I'm just going to say what it is about the attack on Candiace, busting the girl heads down into the picnic table at the winery. That's exactly what it was. I believe she was required to mention it, but she gaslit the viewing audience to, I can't believe I did that. And now, I'm realizing that I had a lot of childhood trauma that I had not addressed and I hadn't healed from. And I just can't believe I did that. Moving on. It's bullshit. It really is. And Candiace didn't have anything to take accountability for. Candiace never touched her. And I know a lot of people love to say, well, her words were triggering. Her words did not require all of that. It was to the point where they had gotten Monique out of the room. They were holding her in a corner and she was trying to get away. She broke away running to get more. She wanted some more, saying, I'm going to KILL her. You know what I'm saying? She just can't bring herself to say again, because she actually did say it. It was the scene when the pastor came over to the house after the beatdown. It wasn't a fight. It was a beatdown. It was an attack. And Chris even was calling her out on it. He was still supporting her, but he was still like, that wasn't right. And the pastor rebuked her in the name of Jesus. No, he didn't do all that. But he was like letting her know, like, you owe her an apology. And Monique's crying because she was embarrassed. I can't believe I did that. I owe her an apology. She never apologized. She came back worse, made a song. I never listened to the crap. Made a song called Drag Queen, which was a play on words to make fun of what she did to Candiace, you know? And she's returned to the spotlight, hoping that this narrative will magically shift in her favor, but never doing the real work to show personal growth. I don't want to hear about the birds and the animals and the whole house being renovated and this is my peaceful zen area and blah 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 blah. This comeback, it just exposes exactly why she never will really be healed until she addresses the real elephant in the room. She beat Candiace down. It was wrong. She allowed Giselle and others to, to gaslight her. She had some terrible things going on in her personal life. She wasn't happy in her marriage because she married for a check. She married for a lifestyle. She did not marry for love. And yeah, he may have been insensitive and, making her feel some type of way, but I don't believe the man was abusive to her. I don't. And she wasn't happy. She was feeling trapped. She wanted, a sexy young thing to rub up on her like we seen in those videos. And then when she got to the point of her 10 years being there, she was like, well, just pay me out for what we agreed within this prenuptial agreement so I can move on. Because I really never wanted to be with you in the first place. You're ugly, your mama's ugly, and I'm tired of being up underneath this ugly nigga. That's how I feel. She really was. You can say what you want to say, but that is my opinion, and I'm standing on it. So refusing to take accountability in the situation, it's looking less like redemption and more like revision. I want to know what you guys think, so let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Thanks for being here, liking, and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.